Hello, the Booker Synth of the Month is the Analogue Solutions Fusebox Mark 1. Synthesizer people, I have a question for you. Are you afraid of Eurorack? Well, keep it up. It's that kind of amygdala-swelling terror that will save you from having to sell your organs for food in the coming decades. Tom Carpenter's long-running British synth company, Analogue Solutions, were at the start of Eurorack, being one of the first 3 companies to produce modules in that life-consuming format. But why spend your time and money assembling modules to build your dream synth when you can let Tom Carpenter build it for you? In 2018, Analogue Solutions released the Fusebox, a bright orange, semi-modular, brazenly analog desktop synth. It's fizzing with electrons, masses of modulation possibilities, has a glorious, and I mean glorious, filter, and its sheer power feels like it's all set to blow the lights. Let's put on our protective live powerline clothing and plug this thing in. So here is Tom Carpenter's Fusebox, and it's bright orange, it's beautiful. Tom actually told me once that it was originally intended to have fuses that plugged into it, different modules that plugged in, but he went, no, that's actually a silly idea. Let's make it semi-modular. It is semi-modular, and it's got lots and lots of patch points, as you can see. At heart, it's a 3 oscillator, 1, 2, 3 oscillator analog monosynth, but with all this flexibility of tuning and modulation and what have you, it's a little bit more, perhaps, than the sum of its parts. So let's have a little peek at this patch that I made for the beginning. So, first of all, we've got a sequence coming in from the Arturia key step, which is doing this. I'll just turn all of these off for the moment. Turn all of these off. So Oscillator 1 has a choice of pulse and saw, which is chosen by this little rocker switch here. In the middle is mute, on the top is pulse, on the bottom is saw. There's a mixer alongside here, so we can bring it up. We'll just, to get sound, we'll switch the EG1 and EG2 to MIDI input. So we can play this. Oscillator 1 only has narrow tuning. We can go from normal tuning here. And it's very slight, sort of basically get it into perfect pitch. We also have pitch input, which we can patch in. There's nothing in there, so let's grab a patch lead and let's take the LFO out and put it into the pitch input. So we can attenuate the amount of modulation inside the oscillator. This is the same for all of them. They all have this pitch input. Then we have a pulse width selector, which we can manually select the width of our pulse. And we can also use pulse width modulation. We can take an external input, but down here in the LFO, pulse width modulation is hardwired inside, and we can control it from this knob here. So you might think that if we plug in another modulation source in here, it would disconnect this. Let's see if it does. So I'm going to grab the output from VCO3 and plug it into the pulse width. And it actually sums them together. So we've got, if I turn the pulse width modulation off down here, now we've got the pulse output coming from. That doesn't go quite square, does it? Oh, maybe it does now. So we can control that, but then we can add the LFO on top, which is interesting. So a lot of these cases where you've got hardwired internal modulation going on, when you add more modulation in, it gets added to it. So we've got sort of a multiplication of modulation stuff happening, which is quite nice. So that's LFO1. We've got an octave switch, and we've also got cross mod from VCO2. Which has no actual level control, you can just turn it on or off. But obviously there's the pitch in. We could use one of the waveforms out from VCO2 and have more subtle control over the cross mod by using the pitch in, but there it is. Marvellous. So yeah, VCO2 is a little bit different. So we've got a wide tuning knob here. Let's just turn off VCO1, turn up the volume. So again, okay, so we've got pulse and sawtooth available on this little rocker switch. Let's stick with pulse. We've got a volume knob in the mixer. We've got the same sort of tuning as VCO1, or we can go to wide tuning, which brings us into this region where we can go whoa, way beyond what's reasonable, all the way down to LFO territory. So that is useful. So VCO1's got sort of narrow range with an octave switch. VCO2 goes very, very wide. You can see it's called VCO/VCLFO, as is VCO3. We've got an option of 3 true oscillators, 2 true oscillators and an LFO, because this can be disconnected from MIDI and from the keyboards, or 2 LFOs and 1 oscillator. I mean, you know, you can mix and match any way you like. Once again, so we've got pulse width modulation there. Whoops, sorry, pulse width modulation here, which is the same as for VCO1. And VCO3 is different again. So VCO3, first of all, let's unplug these, turn that off. VCO3 has no direct switch to put sound in. So VCO1 and 2, you get this little rocker switch choosing between pulse and sawtooth. But VCO3, we have no such rocker switch, but we do have these 3 patch points. So we can send whichever waveform we want into the mixer, which is here. So let's just do that. So that's the triangle. Apologise to Tom, I really must clean these knobs. So as you can hear, it has a pleasing, gritty sort of sound. And again, it goes very low. It can be used as an LFO. If you do use it as an LFO, you can disconnect it from MIDI pitch, which means as you play up and down the keyboard, it won't follow you. But that does negate the fact that the sub-oscillator is connected to VCO3. So let's reconnect it to MIDI pitch. So in wide tuning mode, it's actually quite tricky to get these in tune. And that is quite a bit of its charm, actually. You can feel the electrons flying through this thing. In some cases, it sounds dangerous, shall we say. Turn off the pulse width there. Okay, let's turn on the sub oscillator. So we don't have a level control on the sub. We have mute in the middle of this rocker switch, low and high. Let's see what low does. Pleasing. Let's see what high does. Wow, that's pretty huge. Let's go. Just turn on sync. I had cross mod on that whole time. Whoops. So as you can hear, it's got a lovely, beefy, chewy, analog, true analog sound. And it feels fizzy, deep, chewy. I've used chewy twice now, oh dear. So yeah, as I said, so the tuning's tricky when it's on wide, but if we just go to narrow on them all. Very easy to get those, you know, Fat 3 oscillator sounds. So this is an interesting part of the Fusebox. So we've got this wide tuning going on here. I've sort of tamed them by making them narrow tuning. We've also got this master tune knob here, which is fun in itself. But once we've got these three tunings in here, it's often... Well, that's perfect. So we've got these three tunings in here. We've also got the... It's almost like it's something we can play with, like an old oscillator pitch dial. Such a big knob as well. It's inviting us to play with it. Apologies. Furthermore, we have this thing here called the interval generator. So it's this a bit of a different sort of synth of the month. I'm kind of scampering over it at random today because I have already done a video for the Sonic State for this, which was very in-depth, and a 5 minutes with, I think, for Sonic State, which was pretty in-depth. So this is a bit more sort of a random, having fun sort of thing. Anyway, so we've got the tunings on the oscillators. We've got the tuning here. We've got the interval generator, which is another set of tunings which you can predetermine. So if we set a sequence up, we can then set up an interval. So you can click between bits of the song as you play, which is really great. You can also disconnect VCO 3 from that. So we've got all of this different tuning stuff going on into the VCOs. It's controlled from here, it's controlled from here, and it's controlled from here. And that's a pretty complex thing to be doing. So it's really brilliant that it works at all, really, because it's just so... There's just so much going on. Let's make a nice chord. So we're talking about tuning. Let's make a chord, shall we? So that's on wide, that's off. Start with VCO 1. Well, that seems to be a fifth. So there you go. I made a mistake there because that was switched to just tuning VCO 1 and 2, and I couldn't get them in tune. Now I can. Bring in the sub. Nice. Let's have the saw out. Let's use 2 saws. And let's go for a saw again on number 2, and let's tune it. Delicious. Really nice. So the filter. Analogue Solutions have created a multimode VCF, which is a little bit like a stem filter in that it's sweepable from low pass through notch into high pass. We have big cutoff knob and a big resonance knob. We can also switch it into band pass mode, and we've got various modulation inputs, not just the envelope. The envelope one is hardwired in via this knob here. We can also go negative on it, which is nice. We can put the attack in. Delicious. I'll stop saying delicious in a minute. This is a really nice filter. It's very reminiscent of the stem. I'm just going to bring it right round to notch. Somewhere between notch and high pass. And I will just bring up the resonance. Listen to those harmonics. Oh, it's so lovely. And you can hear that sort of phasing. Let's see if it's happening here. It sounds like phasing, doesn't it? It's, yeah, really special. Oh. Yeah, so it was Simon Forsyth that first let me play with his Oberheim 2 voice, and I just remember standing there with this knob on the stem on the 2 voice and the cutoff and resonance, and just basically going, oh my god, listen to that! It's very, very special. There's something I described it as a million tiny bells. Let's just have one saw going through that, actually, make it simpler. Bring that down. Even with just one saw, if I go as low as I can. I mean, that's lovely, isn't it? I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit lost here. Let's turn the release down. So yeah, the filter's pretty cool. We've got bandpass mode as well, which is also useful. Gives you the similar sort of vibe. And obviously we've got low pass. And we can do that classic sort of... Yeah, that's sort of XOX type thing. So inside this filter, just as we have all that extra modulation capability with the oscillators, we've got lots of modulation capability with the filter as well. Not only can we modulate it with envelope 1, we can also take external CV and modulate it from something outside. We can, so we've got 2 external CV inputs here, so I'm just going to grab that one. So we can modulate that with one of the oscillators. So then we've got that talking filter effect from the pitch of VCO2 going into the cutoff modulation of the filter. Do it nice and slow. And it's great because we've got these attenuators and attenuverters, sometimes on the source, sometimes on the destination. Here it's in the destination, so we can adjust how much is going in, which is very useful. Because often if you're grabbing something from externally and just plugging it in, you just get straight to full, but many times the sweet spot is somewhere else. There's so much going on here, it's actually quite difficult to keep track of where I've been. So we've got 2 envelopes. They are ADRS envelopes. The decay is the release portion as well. We've also got extra outputs from the envelope signal. We've got an LFO. Okay, let's look at the Patternator. So the Patternator is a 4-step CV sequencer. These are the knobs that control the CV. They're completely unquantized, and they do what they do, combined with an 8-step gate sequencer. I know that sounds confusing. I'm confused even just saying it. So the best thing to do is just do it, right? So I'm just going to sync, for the sake of demonstration purposes, I'm going to sync the Patternator to the LFO. There we go. So now it's running. And now I'm going to switch the envelopes into the Patternator. There's our crazy sound. Maybe that's a bit much. So we can control the pitch, global pitch of the Fusebox. Here's another pitch control, by the way. We've got this, these, and this. So that's a lot of pitch control. Let's go. So you can control the amount from this knob. And this works with everything. It's even working with the VCO2, which we're using to modulate. So we can change the pitch of each step with these knobs. Stop it for a second. So as you can hear, it's doing a sort of rhythmic thing there. I'll just turn these beat knobs up full to show you what's going on with the gate sequencer. So we'll stick it back into LFO. Let's pitch it up a bit. So as you can see, it's going straight through these 4 steps, these 4 CV steps. But we have an 8-step gate sequencer, which is controlled from here. So as we turn the first knob backwards, it gradually removes odd steps, I think, or is it even steps? And similarly with the second knob, as we rotate this one, it gradually removes even steps or odd steps, whichever the first one isn't. So let's just speed up a bit. So as you can hear, we've got a little rhythm going on here, and just by playing with these knobs, you can gradually get yourself an 8-step gate sequence going over your 4-step CV sequence, which makes it a little bit more than you'd think from a 4-step sequencer. So we've got both the envelopes being triggered by the gate coming from here. We can also control cutoff. There's a cutoff knob here, taken from these 4 steps here. We can also transpose it by MIDI input on the keyboard. We can also do it, hold on, turn them on, do it from the interval generator. Anyway, so that's all without MIDI input. We can make a sequence. It's also got an arpeggiator, which can run at the same time as the Patternator, at the same time as you're inputting an external sequence, which is pretty crazy. Also, we can switch from, so envelope 2 is by default hardwired to the VCA. Envelope 1 is by default hardwired via this knob to the filter. But we can have one running off the Patternator and the other one running off the MIDI input. So if I just put a sequence in here. So they're both taking their input from MIDI at the moment, but if we go to... So that didn't work. The reason that didn't work is because the Patternator needs to take its sync from somewhere. Let's go. It's coming from the LFO now. That's not... It's interesting. Another great thing about just above the interval generator is that we've got the MIDI CV behavior going on here. So we can take the MIDI clock and give it to the Patternator and hit start. So you hear the VCA is being triggered by MIDI notes, which are basically just 16ths, but the Patternator is controlling when the envelope gets opened. And we can just change around. Yeah, so we can get quite a lot of variety going on here. We've also got LFO re-trigger, which I'll turn on, which often can be useful. So if we're just inputting notes here, we switch this to LFO. And I'm just inputting individual notes, and the Fusebox is making this sequence happen. And the re-trigger is happening. Oh, we turn it off. There we go. That's my MIDI note going in. But let's take the Patternator to trigger the envelope. Let's take the envelope out and put it into pitch control of 1. There we go. Let's take the envelope out and get it to 2, put it into sync. So we got a nice sync noise there. There's a little sequence to end with. We've got the envelope coming out, controlling a pitch of VCO2, which is giving us some sync. We've also got envelope 1 controlling the cutoff of the filter in that rather delicious notch mode. So we've got sync and the filter doing its thing at the same time. How about I just hit play? Oh, yes, I've also got this coming from the Korg SQ1, which has got a little sequence in it, which I'm going to plug into cutoff modulation in a bit. But for now, that's goodbye to the Analogue Solutions Fusebox. I hope you enjoyed it. It's by no means a comprehensive tour of this astonishing orange box, but I hope it gives you a flavour of how electrical it feels. Here's the tune.